Back to our MLB trade deadline show. I'm Ira Frank alongside from the score, Brett Wiseman. And I'll tell you what, folks, we mentioned we have an incredible lineup today, and it starts off. I couldn't think of a better guy to start off with, Brett. Two-time All-Star, 1985 home run leader, he World Series champ, played for the Braves, Giants, and Detroit Tigers. Let's welcome in Darrell Evans. Darrell, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. It's an exciting day for a lot of people and probably a lot of disappointment in some of the players. So this isn't well. The one thing I think is we should have done this a long time ago. This shouldn't be August 1st. This should be back in June. It makes the teams and everybody more committed. And now it's like if I get traded. I shouldn't have been here in the first place, and if I don't get traded to the right team, it's a traumatic experience. So it's not good for everybody, obviously, but we get to see which teams are in it and which teams aren't, and after 4 months they decommitted to winning, like the Mets. So it's not always a good thing, but exciting day.
Yeah, definitely an exciting day around baseball. And I know, I tell people, one of the, I kind of laugh, is one of the worst days in my life. I think I was 11 years old, came at the trade deadline. But like Darrell said, folks, it was in June at that time in 1977 when Tom Seaver was traded to the Reds. So it is a lot later than it was when Darrell played. Darrell, I want to ask you a question, and I've been dying to ask you this question. And may sound a little selfish, but I'm going to ask it. 1993, you probably had, out of an unbelievable 21-year career, you had probably your best season ever. You had 41 homers, 104 RBIs, but it came at the same time that Hank Aaron was trying to achieve, his historical moment with Babe Ruth with 714 home runs. Did you feel like, and yes, it was great. We all loved what Hank Aaron did. But did you feel like you lost out on some well-deserved recognition because of his feat?
Wow, that's no, not at the time. I mean, that was my third year. Yes, third year in the major leagues, and having that kind of year, being his teammate, and then all the importance on, of course, the special moment. I think people forget what a tremendous moment not just in our country but in the world. I mean, this was such a big deal. No one was going to come close to Babe Ruth. Then we get this happening, and of course it happened. I was part of that, and it was easy. I didn't have any pressure on me, or nobody kind of asked me about having such a great year. It was all about Hank, and so I think it made it easier for me, especially when I was younger. I look back and expect, that I was going to do it every year, and then Hank and Eddie Matthews, who was the hitting coach, my idol, was the hitting coach, manager, and they grabbed me and said, "Hey, listen, you know what? You just set your own standard. And if you don't do this again, you're going to take criticism and you're not going to get the recognition you should have. But you got to realize that that's going to be in your future, and people are going to criticize you or maybe be disappointed that you're not doing that again. But realistically, I was second in the majors in runs scored and RBIs, and third in home runs, and I think first in on base percentage, and so all that happened, and didn't get, I didn't get many votes for MVP or anything like that, but I was completely satisfied, except that we didn't win. We had such a great team, and one of the greatest lineups of all time. So many of us had great years. Dusty Baker had a great year that year too. So it was something I look back on. No one's ever asked me that question before. That's it's pretty incredible. I don't think anything negative from what that year was all about. And so I got to do it pretty much again, in '85. So there was and some good things along the way, which got me to be able to play for 21 years. And the thing about it is I hit third most of the time in all three teams in great lineups. So I guess they appreciated it, even though they didn't exactly reward me like they should have, or the fans and the press. So but it was it's a dream year, and this disappointing that we didn't win it, that we didn't win the National League West. But people tell me and I go, so remember who was in that division back then? That was the Big Red Machine, the Dodgers. They were great teams, probably two best teams in baseball. And we had to fight with them every year, and maybe a little disappointed that we didn't win more.
Yeah, we got some breaking news real quickly, and we'll get to it after the interview with Darrell Evans. But Paul DeJong from the St. Louis Cardinals is on his way to the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll have more with Brett Wiseman after the interview with Darrell Evans.
Yeah, Darrell, the one thing, and we don't know the return yet on that trade, Larry, so we'll wait on that. But Darrell, the one thing that I really wanted to ask you, it's kind of bouncing off Larry's question, was Eddie Matthews was your hitting coach, and Hank Aaron being in that clubhouse. What was it like for you, especially as a young guy, to soak up and absorb all the advice and just the baseball wisdom that those two were able to offer?
Can we think of two better people to have, to walk into and have the careers they had? And Hank was still playing, but Eddie had just finished, and have the careers they had, and looking back and going, they're the best teammates of all time, and as far as home runs and a lot of other stuff, they were winners. That was, and even when I first came up in 1969, we had Phil Niekro was on that team too, all those years, and then Orlando Cepeda when I first came up, another Hall of Famer, and Hoyt Wilhelms last year, the guy, the Yoda relief pitcher. I mean, gosh, just walking into that clubhouse. Didn't say much at first. You're just in awe because you can't talk. You're
right. I imagine it was a whole lot of listening from your
oh my gosh, of course. And you know what I found out, and of course you don't know. You walk in there and you go, they're a bunch of guys that love each other, get along. It's like going into when you're buddies and you're going to have a beer or whatever. They whatever comes up, they're going to talk about. They're not shy about it. And they know it's in an atmosphere that everybody in that clubhouse kind of knows, obviously baseball and everything. And one of the things they always told all of them, Clete Boyer was there, is that, their responsibility was to pass this along to make baseball better in the future. So they were completely open to anything. And I was 2 lockers away from Hank, so had a lot of intimate conversations, not just about baseball, but about situations. And the physicality wasn't so much, everybody's this, everybody's that. We can improve on the physicality, but the mental part. And that's what they expected you to grasp right away. And that's the difference between winning each year and losing, is that, we had so many great players, but you got to have the other guys, the young guys like me or everybody else, raise up to their standards. So it was unimaginable. I didn't know it was even like that at all. But man, I was welcome, and they told me right away too. Said, "Hey, the only way we're going to win is for you to be as good as you can be." So they kidded you as a rookie, and but they took care of us too. And so they were there, and as soon as they found the thirst, if you had a thirst for learning, man, they were all over. And those little subtle, as you walk by them and they'll make a comment, which nobody else maybe hears except you, was that, hey, this is what we expect out of you. So I don't think anybody's ever been in a clubhouse with those kind of guys at the perfect time.
Darrell, another team you played for that was amazing was that 1984 Detroit Tigers World Series champion team. Talk about that amazing team, the amazing pitching staff, the amazing double play duo of Sweet Lou and Alan Trammell, and also how did you like Tiger Stadium when it came to hit it?
Well, that was kind of the perk that got me there. I was a free agent in '83 with the Giants. I hit 30 home runs and I had a good year, but I was coming on 37. So they decided they didn't want me, and they put out that nobody else is going to want me, and so they weren't going to give me my free agent contract. So because I was too old and I couldn't play anymore, all that kind of stuff. Well, that was the first year of the free agent draft, which is illegal, but that was the first time they had a draft for free agents in the major league. And I was also in the first free agent draft when I came out of high school too. But anyway, so they were trying to keep the expenses down, and and one of the things that's so, I think, happening now in so many ways is that they forget the players are humans. They have loyalty. They want to be wanted. They want you to be honest with them. They know if they've done well or they haven't or what's going on. And then you get surprised by that. But I was fortunate enough to get with the Tigers all those guys, they had their core people, 8 or 10 of those guys all came up within a year or two together. So the Tigers were great at drafting and then developing their players at the time. And I was just a guy that they wanted to, fit in that made it easier for me to be in. The lineup I was in maybe as good as any lineup ever. We had Chet Lemon hitting 9th, Larry Hernan hitting 8th. Howard Johnson was just a second-year player, and we traded it, as he became a big superstar. So that's the kind of excess talent. Lance Parrish was probably the best catcher in baseball. Lou and Tram up the middle. Howard Johnson at third. And then Gibson was coming into his own in the outfield. Chet Lemon, and like you said, we had all that great pitching, which we had. Bill LaJoy had traded for a couple of guys that solidified everything, and I think everybody didn't have to be the best player on the team. Everybody just do your own thing, and kind of, I look back, we didn't all have our greatest years, but once we started winning, learning how to win, they had lost to Baltimore the year before, and they were angry. They thought they were a better team than Baltimore anyway. So, like today, the Tigers brought in me as a pretty big time free agent, and that boosted the team. They all said that. They all thought I hit 40 home runs every year. To be honest with you, they didn't know I was in the National League, but they expected me to contribute, and that we got off such a great start. And I lived through my first game on the road against the Twins. I had a 3-run homer in the 7th inning. I hadn't hit any home runs during spring training, but nobody was worried about that. None of the players or anything. I had a 3-run homer opening day, and then we went home 6-0. And then the first time I ever stepped in Tiger Stadium, I hit a 3-run homer the first inning off of Dave Stewart with the Rangers. And I became, I was a Tiger. The fans, everybody was like, it was incredible. And, then we kept winning and winning. and it's like we all look back and go, no, it's impossible. Nobody, no team, but we did 35-5, and we won 17 games on the road. And I remember we won and we were in the West Coast swing in Anaheim, and we swept them for 17 in a row on the road, and they had 40,000 there, gave us a standing ovation. So it was an electric, special time, and we just kind of continued it. It was Toronto was still playing good. They were close to us, and we had to keep pushing. I think that really helped us. But it was a bunch of young guys that, as far as their experience-wise, that were hungry and that were, 1, 2, or 3 at their position in baseball. Every position we had that. So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of celebrating. And, with Trammell, I was just talking about, has there ever been a not 1 and 2 punch better than Trammell and Whitaker? They played together for 20 years. You look back at maybe Rose and Morgan, but I don't know. Has there ever been one? So I walked in there and hit third, and they were on base all the time, or first and third, or home runs. So we jumped on people right away, and the game was over a lot of times. So it was we couldn't wait to go to a new place and bludgeon that team. The teams were scared of us, obviously. Kind of, they wouldn't say it, but they were scared of us. So it was the time, probably the best, of course, best time, the best team, or the team that I played on that played the best at that time, day in and day out. And it was just, I think we lost 3 of the 5 games that we lost were 1-run games, too. So, we could have been even better. We didn't need to be. But, in that division, that was the American League East. Heck, you had to win 100 games to win that division. And
yeah, you did. Well, listen, my friend, I'm sure Brett and I could talk to you all day long about baseball and the great career you had and the time you played. But fortunately, we're running out of time. But we want to thank you so very, very much, taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on our MLB Trade Deadline show today.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk about the good old days. That's for sure.
And it's great for us to listen to it. Thanks so much, Darrell.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.